a greeter for tonight, so this is pretty cool. Because I'm wearing many hats again.
That comes along with it.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know cleaning
You
came
never
along.
know. You never know what you're going to do.
I clean more because the food work.
My friend from North Jersey, who I
But
grew
it's
up
good.
Welcome
Welcome to
Thank you so much.
Harry, I'm sneaking up.
Hey, Dave, how are you? Go for it.
I just wanted to say hello and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, how are you? Good, careful
I
there.
don't think these are actual. This is overgrowth, or is this something I should watch out for?
No, I think it's just overgrowth. I think you're okay.
It's a nice evening.
Yeah, for sure. Look at that.
Yeah, it goes with the car I have out in the parking lot.
Oh, you have a classic?
69 Cutlass.
Look at you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I stopped over at Johnson's Farm.
I was going to say, did you know about
It's the first time
they did that?
I'd ever gone there.
Yeah, every Friday night. That's cool.
So
Every once in a
tonight's
while
the
they
last
go.
one.
Right, they do it for the summer, yeah. Oh, cool. I'm
So I
glad you're
happened to
able
make it
go there.
at least to one.
Did you get a lot of visitors?
Actually, I parked my car and I went walking around
Oh, okay.
to see what was there.
All right.
So, having never been there.
Yeah, it's a fun place. We go there. I like to go there a lot. And
Seems like they have a lot of things that
They do.
all the time.
Every season they do every hayride, and they do picking, strawberry picking, and apple picking.
They had
peaches.
hay rides tonight.
Yeah, they go back out there. Well, I think you're in peach season. They do peaches, right?
Right, so they do the hayride and then stop and let you pick.
Yep. And then they charge you a big. Well,
And
Yeah, but
tonight
it's still
is
nice.
our
Yeah.
last outdoor Shabbat for the summer. And we are sitting a little bit differently than past outdoor Shabbatos because we're closer to the building. So those of us leading the Shlichei Tzibor can see our words better as the sun is setting now. And in an hour from now, it might not be as easy to see. So if you need to pull out your phones and flashlights, that's quite all right. Or if you just want to listen, that's good too.
Can we make it louder?
Can we make it louder?
Move away from me, girl.
How is this? Is this better? Can you hear me better than before? I can also, there we go. I think it's also the angle of the microphone. Okay, we turn to page 1 and open our service singing Ameh. As we continue with the lighting of our Shabbat candles and our Kiddush, it's my pleasure to welcome, to lead us in these honors, Janice and Chris B.
Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who have us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, borei peri hagafen. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
as we continue welcoming in Shabbat with Lecha Dodi. To turn to somebody, perhaps not the person next to us if we already know that person, but somebody in front of us, behind us, across the way, and introduce ourselves as we greet one another. Shabbat Shalom.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for warning me. Everything could have gone on cruise. So jealous. Thank you. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Shabbat shalom. Hello there. Shabbat shalom to you. I saw you in the parking lot. Shabbat shalom. Yes. Chris. Okay. Put that together very quickly.
As we turn now to page 3 in our service, we continue with our children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy arms, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou risest up, and when thou liest down, and when thou liest down, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand. They shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your When our ancestors reached the far shore of the Sea of Reeds, and they knew they were finally freed from Pharaoh's grip, they cried out to God and sang this song of freedom. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehtar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei pelech, nora tehilot osei pelech. Malekut Torah u'banecha, u'kiyayim v'Moshe u'Miriam, Za'elianu ve'amru, Za'elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות וברית עולם, לעשות את השבת As we are able, we rise for tefillah. In the middle of page 7. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Hashabbat. Shalom Rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam. Ki otah melech haron lekol hashalom. Ki otah melech haron lekol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam. B'tov einecha livarech et amcha Yisrael. בכל עת ובכל בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל תשים לעולם. Shalom Rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam. We turn our thoughts and prayers now to those who are in need of healing. And for those of you who are watching through the blessing of technology, we invite you to add the names of those people whom you're thinking of who are in need of healing, whether it be a healing of the body or a healing of the spirit. Add those names to the chat or comments as you're able. And I share with you this list of people in our extended Adif family who are in need of healing. Brian Zabel, Robin Schaefer, Ed Crosby, Yehudit Bat Abraham Basara, Jonathan Burr, Myra Kaplan, Sarah Drasnin, Coco Aguilar, Ron Fisher, Jeff Schaefer, Lulu Rivuela, Marion Gortz, Aaron Tepper, Lily Tepper, Joan Major, Karen Bowen, Louis Alahut, Mary Parker, Barbara Cohn, Tricia Tepper, Jordan Maverick Steinberg, Carol Schaefer, Harriet Rosenberg, Hudson Hodge, Carrie Basin, Dr. Jerry Herman, Todd Pollard, Murray Kammerman, Mary Mednitsky, Jocelyn Jackson, Jen Jones, Shirley Friedlander, Michael Infanti, Gary Garnick, Sarah Oken, Ann Marsden, Jerry Dreskin, Rick Ulrich, Ileana Cohn. And if there are others whose names need to be added to this list so that we send our blessings to them as well, for those of you who are here in person, I invite you to stand and share their names aloud.
Maureen Brown and Karen Mulhall.
Arthur May, Michelle May, and Stu Golds.
Jana Ibsen and Barry Bookman.
Natalie Long. Irene Lynn.
Baruch Atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We continue our prayer silently. has the summer gone? It's already September. And is as custom on the first Friday of the month, so this is the first Friday of September, we share in the joy of blessings for those who are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries and other significant life events. So if you are one of those people, I invite you to rise in your place as you're able, or if you're watching through technology and you're at home or wherever you are and you want to stand in your place as we celebrate you, we offer this blessing. God of our days and years, author of life, our times are in your hand. We thank you for the blessing of life and for all that enriches our lives. We gather today in special thankfulness to share in the happiness of those celebrating their birthdays, anniversaries, and other life events during this month of September. God be with them always as the joy of their lives. May they be blessed with health and happiness and with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow. May they have the joy of coming together for many more years, united by mutual reverence and love. May these milestone events remind us that as we may count the days of our lives, a person of wisdom also makes every day count. And so, God, we ask and offer this ancient blessing upon these individuals. And since you are not here for the August, I can offer this for you, and you can be a recipient this time. Because if you missed the blessing when it was your turn in August, you can also stand and receive this blessing. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be with you always and give you peace. And let us say, Amen. Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov. Yehelanu, 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 Ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov. Yehelanu. May be seated. Judaism commands us to be fair. And that means and includes setting up judges, not showing partiality, and not taking bribes. In our Torah portion this week, Shoftim, which means judges, we find that famous phrase, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue, that you may thrive and occupy the land that your eternal God is giving you. Among the greatest judges of the Jewish people, you might be thinking I'm going to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? I just heard a wonderful interview this morning on NPR about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg of blessed memory. But the judge we're speaking about tonight is none other than King Solomon, who was known as one of the wisest judges. And I share with you this story called King Solomon and the Three Brothers. Now, as I tell this story, I invite you to think about what choices would you have made throughout the story if you were one of the brothers, or perhaps in the judging, the final judgment that King Solomon has to make at the end of the story. Once there were three brothers who decided to leave their home and study Torah and knowledge under King Solomon. The king was pleased and advised them to remain with him for many moons, so he could teach them all the wonders of the world. He then appointed them as members of his inner guards. They remained in his guard for 3 years. Finally, one day, they said to each other, "Why do we come here? 3 years have passed and we haven't learned a thing. Let's go home." So they came before the king and they requested permission to depart for home. King Solomon agreed and then called his treasurer, who produced 300 pieces of gold. "You can have your choice," said the wise king. "You can choose to take this gold, 100 pieces each, or I can give you 3 pieces of advice." What do you think the brothers chose? Well, the brothers thought it over and they all answered with the same answer, and they agreed to accept the gold. And they had barely traveled a few miles when the youngest brother stopped and he cried out, "Did we spend 3 years of our lives merely to accept gold, or to gain knowledge from the great and wise King Solomon? If you listen to me, we'll all return this gold to the king and request his knowledge." His brothers would not be pursued. They couldn't be convinced. "You can return," they said, "but we will continue homeward with this gold." The youngest brother returned to the king, gave him back the gold, and requested in its stead to be taught 3 wise sayings. King Solomon taught the following. "My son," he said, "when you are traveling, make sure to start out as soon as the sun rises and prepare your night's lodging well in advance before the sun sets. Don't wait until it gets dark. If you see a river that's overflowing its banks, do not descend into it, but wait until the water recedes. And 3, when you meet your wife, confide in her as a friend." The young man thanked the king and departed, and traveling very fast, he caught up with his brothers. "Hey, what'd you learn from the king?" they asked. "What I learned from the king is my secret," said the youngest of brothers, "for this is why I returned all of my gold to him." They traveled together for 9 hours and came to a beautiful sheltered space near a spring of water. "Let's stop here. This place has everything," said the youngest brother. "Water, grass for the horses, wood for kindling, and protection from the cold winds." "Are you a fool?" his brothers retorted. "The day's still young. We can cover at least another 8 miles, especially when you have to cross this mountain." The youngest brother would not listen to them, and he remained in this secluded spot while they went on. The younger brother cut down trees, built a fire and a lean-to for himself and his horse, and after providing enough fodder for his horse, he fell asleep for the night. His brothers, however, continued on over the mountain until it became very dark. And suddenly it began to snow, and because it was very dark, they couldn't find a suitable shelter and soon froze to death. Early in the morning, the younger brother saddled his horse and, completely refreshed, started up after the trail of his brothers. And to his surprise, he found them frozen. Mourning, he buried them, and he took their gold and continued on his way home. Midday, the sun melted all the snow from the mountainsides. The water flowed into the rivers, and soon all the rivers overflowed their banks. Seeing the bulging rivers, the younger man remembered King Solomon's second piece of advice and sat down near the riverbank, waiting for it to recede. Meanwhile, on the other side of the river, a troop of King Solomon's soldiers were leading a pack of mules laden with gold for the king's coffers. Noticing the young man, they called out, asking him why he was waiting. "The waters are too deep and turbulent," he shouted back. But the soldiers were in a hurry, and they descended into the water. Midway across, a swell of water engulfed them, and they all drowned. The young man, remembering the king's advice, waited until the waters became very low. Then, crossing the river, he picked up on the way all of the gold that the mules had been carrying. After 3 days, the youngest brother returned home, wealthy and in good health. He embraced his wife, and now for the third time, remembering Solomon's advice, he told his good wife everything that had happened to him and to his brothers. Soon the brothers' wives came to greet him, and they asked eagerly, but where are our brothers? For the two wives had seen the many bags of gold he had brought on his horse. He was then forced to tell them what had happened to his brothers, their husbands. And when they heard how their husbands had died, the women shouted, "You murdered them for the gold! That gold belongs to us! We will drag you to a court of law to be tried and hanged." "No, no, dear sisters," cried the youngest brother's wife. "My husband is innocent of your charges. He did not kill anyone. He is alive only because he followed King Solomon's good counsel." The two sisters-in-law became even more outraged and shouted, "Naturally, you will take his side so you too can have all the gold to yourselves. Solomon's good counsel indeed. Perhaps the advice was to follow his brothers and kill them." The young wife proposed, "Well, let's go to King Solomon's court for a trial. The king is known for his fairness and honesty." And so the two sisters-in-law agreed, and they all went to the court of King Solomon. When Solomon heard the case and recognized the youngest brother as the one who had chosen to accept his offer of the 3 wise sayings, he announced, "All that this man has told you is true. Your husbands chose the gold. No one murdered them for it. They did not understand the rules of nature and scoffed at my offer to wisdom." The youngest brother asked for the 3 pieces of advice that helped save his life. So they're going to court for this trial of gold. What do you think happens? King Solomon continued, "However, the gold I gave to each of your husbands shall now be yours." And Solomon added, "Remember, always seek wisdom, for wisdom is more precious than gold." Perhaps the decisions being made, whether by the brothers or the judgment by King Solomon, were obvious as the story unfolded. Yet not all dilemmas are so simple. Judaism has directed us to set up a system in which we are fair and judge impartially. From our homes to the highest courts, these are the values we embrace. Shabbat Shalom. As we turn now to page 9, as we're able, we rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach adon ha'ol, lateit gdula yosef reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo zamanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo be seated. Our thoughts turn now to those who are no longer with us. And so we turn to page 10 for Mourner's Kaddish. As we think of the following people in our Adif community and extended who died in recent days and weeks. We remember Gloria Goodman, cousin of Dave Fuller, Lynn Romsberg, sister of Larry Marcus. We also recall those whose yard sites are on this Shabbat. We mark the anniversary of their death. Dorothy Arends, James Comer, Emma Diamondstein, Lawrence Gallon, Judy Himber, Owen Messenger, Edith Orkin, Sarah Richmond, Jenny Sternberg, Barbara Stevens, Charlotte Tepper, Richard Wargo, Clara Weiss, Eugene Walensky, Laura Young. And if you have other names that have not been mentioned, if you're watching through technology, you can add those names in the chat or comments. If you're here in person, I invite you to rise and say their name aloud. And so I invite at this time all those who are in the period of Shiva to stand. Those who are in the period of Shloshim, whose loved ones have died in the past month, 30 days, to rise. And I invite you to rise if you're observing a yard site this Shabbat or you're in the first year of mourning. Together we rise now as one community in comfort and support as we continue with the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayedechol ve'Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah m'barach le'olam olnei olayah, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'riyahu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, ta'amiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'romah, Uyaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen. May be seated as we welcome Diane to share some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're under the spotlight. I like it. I don't need my lamp. Thank you, Rabbi Memes Fowler, Cantor Sandy, and Herb for leading us in tonight's service. Thank you to Janice and Chris for leading us in tonight's blessing and setting up Oneg. And thank you to Perry for setting up this beautiful Bima, okay? And for doing our technology this evening. And as always, a special thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. Please join us tomorrow morning at 8:45 for Torah Talk and Bagels, followed by our Simply Shabbat morning service at 10 a.m. A few items to look forward to. Sunday, September 11th is the first day of religious school. It will be held at the JCC camps in Medford. Parents are encouraged to stay to learn about ADIS, various committees. Prior to meeting with the teachers and the children, bagels and coffee will be served. I will be checking if you don't have a child there and you're sneaking in to get a free bagel. But I ordered plenty, so you're welcome to stop by. On Thursday, September 15th is Sisterhood's opening event, a wine, cheese, and chocolate tasting. And Men's Club is offering catering for Rosh Hashanah. So if you do not feel like cooking, take advantage of their catering skills. All orders have to be placed by September 20th, that's a Tuesday. Social Action is looking for volunteers to assist at St. Paul's Church in Camden once a month. Contact Fran Green if you're interested in joining in that program. Tonight's Oneg is mobile, so hopefully you'll stay for a few minutes, snack, and connect with your fellow congregants. And in honor of Labor Day, tonight's thought for Shabbat is, The privilege to work is a gift. The power to work is a blessing. And the love of work is success. Have a wonderful weekend and Shabbat Shalom.
Our closing song tonight will be found on the last page. We will sing Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom Aleichem. Kebenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Please join me in Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. And Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
See you here tomorrow.